My name is Claudine Ullman, actress, improviser, and all-round hustler, and you're listening to the Big Time Podcast, my chance to speak to industry greats, movers, shakers, and game changers, people who are making waves and setting new standards. Who are they? What inspires them? And what do they have to do to hit the big time? You hit the big time, baby! Joining me today is TV. Joining me today is comedian extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, go poop crazy for my friend, the hilarious Ryan Whittal. Ryan Whittal.
Hooray! Hooray! It's me. Yes.
Welcome to the big time, my friend.
Thank you. This is wonderful. This is lovely to be here.
And I need to say welcome to Facebook, welcome to YouTube, welcome to TikTok. We are live on all the platforms. And I know. And I am just so excited to catch up with you, find out how you have been. I'm not going to lie. Your internet may be the cuckest internet on the planet. Is it fair to say? Yeah.
I can see you and hear you. Can
okay,
you
good.
Hear me and see me?
Just
might be the wind. Pixely. That's pockmarks. That's my acne.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Just checking. Ryan, how are you? How have you been this lockdown? That's always question number one.
Well, all things considered, I can't actually complain. It's going very well. I am in a really pretty part of the world called Melkbosstrand. Have you been there?
No, but it sounds. The moment you said Melkbosstrand, I obviously thought of milk tart.
They have them there's an OK. They have them at the OK down the road. It is Melkbos is in in Cape Town on the west coast, they call it. So if you drive past Table View and you just stay straight on that road with Robben Island on your left and some Fynbos on your right, you just keep going a little bit, 10 minutes, you're in Melkbos. It's lovely.
And
staying with my mom.
10 minutes in the other direction, you're in Robben Island. So I'm just happy that your sense of direction is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you just the ocean on the left, and there's an actual, Blouberg. There's an actual berg that is the Blouberg.
I've stayed in Blouberg before. I know Blouberg
down the road. We're down the road. Where's my hand? We're down the road. I'm sorry, getting the camera right. We're down the road from Blouberg.
It's opposite.
Down the road.
Opposite. So, if you're raising this hand, can you see it's the other side? Which is so crazy. I know, it's so crazy.
Wow.
Good. So it sounds like you kind of living in paradise, living the dream, as much as possible in a global pandemic, which is awesome. I wanted to have you on the big time because Ryan is involved in Glittery Citizens. He's one of my key players, and I just find him so bloody hilarious. Him and my friend Ronnie Monimola are, I would say, the king of dad jokes. King of dad jokes in this country, and I'm obsessed with you both because I just find you guys hilarious. Hilarious. How do you get into dad joke comedy? What happens there?
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. I think what for me, everybody else was doing current material about politics and stuff that you expect people to talk about, and observational humor, and I commend them for that. But there was just something within me that was wanting to go back to a good old stupid joke, just a stupid punny joke, and it's almost done in a bit of a rebellious way, but it's like back to the stupid stuff. And that's where my heart was. It was not. I thought people coming to a comedy club wanted to escape a bit. And what observational humor does is actually you don't really escape, and political humor, you don't really escape the political trauma, but it's necessary, and I commend people to do that. But mine was like, no, I want to do this stupid stuff because it's fun and ridiculous, and it's got to be done with a certain inner madness. Otherwise, it just comes off as stupid, which it is. But when you do it with a real unbridled joy, then it's lacquer.
Well, that's exactly what I love about you, unbridled joy. I would say that is the word. There is a total commitment to silliness, which I really love, respect, and admire, because I feel like I'm on that same train. I'm also all about the silly. I'm all about the clown. I'm all about how to do what I find funny and what I am great at on stage. And it's taken me 4 years to get there, get to a space where I go, oh, wait, this is how I do funny, and this is what I find funny. You know?
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about comedy is if you want to succeed and just are so passionate about the stage and about the craft, you will succeed if you just keep working at it, because it really is like a slow brewed beer or wine. It's that kind of process. And yeah, I mean, when I watched your one woman show at the Dunkelder, I was blown away at some of your character comedy. As you know, I really love the matric boy character of yours. It's mad and it's fantastic, and it's quite shocking. But it's that's the juxtaposition of you being a prim and proper Jewish lady doing this oak. It's like tuning people's mothers and stuff. You know, it's very fun.
Absolute pig.
He is funny. I think he's the kind of oak that you would want to be mates with, but you wouldn't want to introduce to your sister. He's that kind of oak. Mind you, it depends on your sister, but
depending on how you feel about the sister. You know, if it's a bad relationship, then maybe. But yeah, thank you for saying
and
that.
That mad single mother, mother of 5 at the end, who comes in at the end and starts dancing to Nkalagata. It's off the wall, man. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
But, okay, talking about this madness stuff, you know, my mate Warren Robertson, he watched me a few years ago, a couple of years ago. We were at Parker's, and he was, as they all do, standing at the bar watching the other comedians. And afterwards, we had a drink, and he saw me trying to do some kind of madness, and he said, "What I've actually got to do was embrace it even with more gusto, with just fully embrace the madness." And he actually gave me as a reference old Bobcat Goldthwait, the guy from Police Academy, that mad guy used to come, he's coming and scream, that I love him. And I actually watched some clips of him doing stand-up, and he is a proper inspiration. There's one clip, you got to see it. It's from 1985, and it's on YouTube, and it's I think it's called Comic Relief. It's a live show being broadcast to millions of people around America, and he does 5 minutes, and he's absolutely mad. I've never seen anything like it. He's absolutely mad.
Great.
He says it takes him about 2 minutes to get, "Hey, give me, hey." And he just starts screaming, and then he breathes, and it looks like he's losing control. It's like, "Hi guys, thank you very much." And it takes about 2 minutes before he actually gets into his set, which is then only 3 minutes, and this is live in front of millions. It was brilliant. He owns it. He just I mean, if you're going to go in that direction, there's no going back. There's no going 50%. You go for it. It's awesome.
That's really what I do appreciate about you as a performer, is you are all in. You know, you're all in, and I think that is what it takes to be funny and successful, like to have that. It's a need to please the audience, but please the audience through laughter, not please the audience through I care what you guys think about me or an outside judgment of myself. Rather, this is hilarious, and that's all that matters, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the whole journey. There's an analogy I'm using a lot lately with many things in life, and it's like there's a river with two banks, and you've got to navigate between these two banks. And in comedy, when you're performing on stage, the two banks are am I providing a good service to the crowd? Do they like me? But you can't go too far on that bank without the other bank, which is, am I sincerely having a good time? Am I being authentic? Because I think what the audience, and if you can get that authenticity right, and it's sincerity of performance, and you can have a good time, I think it lets the audience relax, and they can trust that you are a clown that's really lost in himself and is living to entertain. And but if I think you could possibly, if you don't have it, if you're not in touch with reality, you could go so crazy in that direction that you lose touch with the humans, the humanity, the humans that we're trying to entertain. So it's really that splendid balance. But I found a lot of freedom in being myself, and in finding my own funny, and in just going for that, just owning that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I see that authenticity, and that's how I feel every time I perform with you. Every time I get to do improv with you, I'm like, you make us feel safe. Because you do, because you are so yourself, and we know what we're getting. There's no worry that this team player is unpredictable and we don't know what's going to happen. We know you, and therefore we know the sort of comedy we're getting, which is actually so wonderful in terms of support when improvising.
I mean, but improv is a whole another splendid beastly thing. I mean, it's I think the beauty of it is that you truly got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was trained by some of the really good oaks in the game, like Al Rogers, Alan Adams, Robert Fridjon, Shane Howarth. He's now lives in Canada, and then a few of us grew up in that little stable, like Chris Forrest and myself and Vittorio. And there's a name I forget, Malcolm Ferreira. I don't know if you met Malcolm. He was a splendidly mad comedian. But now what they taught us was when you start improv, you so badly want to think about what you're going to say next. But if you're playing with someone else, you're not really listening to them. And if you're able to trust in the magic of what's going to happen in that uncertainty of truly knowing 5 seconds before you speak, you don't know what you're going to say, but you trust that when the 5 seconds are up, when you get to that moment, it's going to be magic. It's going to be something amazing. And if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and find tremendous excitement in that moment, that is what the essence of improv is all about. And it's mad. And I think we must never forget as improvisers that the audience, the big thing that will always make them love improv is that they know you don't know what you're going to say next. I don't know what I'm going to say next. They don't know what I'm going to say next. And in that moment, we're all waiting. That suspense, that tension, it's glorious. And then you just go for it. And it's so fun. And it's fun to be around people in Jittery who share that enjoyment. And they just don't worry about what's going to happen next. Listen, and then just go for it.
It's not what I think we have to explain to people, because I totally agree with you, and I get the same sort of, full body happy experience when I am improvising. We have to explain to people the difference between improv and stand-up, because people don't understand that it's two actually totally different art forms, and you can bring them together at some point, but actually it's two different skill sets. You know, one is really writing and crafting, which is the stand-up, and the other is arriving on stage, I have nothing, which is a whole different side of the brain, you know, a whole different type of creation. So I want to play a game with you. I want to play Would You Rather. And would you rather, now you can't, okay, you have to choose one of these. And this is for like the rest of your life. Okay?
Okay.
So would you rather perform stand-up, right, to small little bars? Okay, but you're performing stand-up all the time, every single night, because these are the opportunities we do get with stand-up. So you're doing that the rest of your life, but you can never do improv again. Or you get to do improv performance once a month, also like small little bar. But rest of your life.
Oh, that is
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's like a Sophie's Choice almost, you know. I haven't even seen that movie, but I believe it's like a Sophie's. Must I tell you my answer? Must there be an answer?
Running out. 5, 4, 3. Tell me.
Got it. I would go with my first love. Sadly, option 1. That's very sad, because the other one you said has to die. That's just because I think it's my first love. It was my first love, you know.
Your first love is stand-up. That's so interesting for me, because Danny asked me, my husband asked me this the other night. He said to me, cool, you get to do stand-up for the rest of your life, but you can never do improv ever again, or you get to do improv but never do stand-up. And then I started asking him, well, you know, what are my opportunities? Because the opportunities you get in stand-up, because it's so more well-known, are so much bigger than the opportunities you get in improv. And if that's the case, I have to go with stand-up.
Yeah, it's also, I think, in essence, people in our game and people like this, if you've had a crack at stand-up, it means you've stood on a stage with, as Mal Miller would say, with the opponents on the other side. You, a microphone in hand, the opponents, the audience on the other side. And that desire to want to be on your own and to be accountable for a moment in time and space and to deliver shows that, and it's the good side of us being loners, but we are lone wolves, I think. And we know how to, we know how to hustle, and we know how to really do it on our own. And I think it's possibly why theater and maybe improv has struggled a wee bit, is because, you know, herding these cats like us is not easy, because we just kind of used to being on our own. But when you do it, when you go through the pain and the hard work and the workshops like we have with Jittery, you eventually get magic. But it is a difficult process to herd these cats. But because I think, in essence, we're lone wolves. I mean, if you think about the Beatles, John and Paul, when they eventually even went their separate way, but they were forced together. Like some of that Beatles story, they were forced together to do gigs in Germany, in Hamburg, on 2 occasions for weeks at a time, away from home, no one else but each other, and playing 16-hour sets a day for days in a row. It forces you, that hard work of forcing these individual artists together to collaborate does produce magic. It does. And that's why it's really cool. But yeah, we're lone wolves, and we can hoy on our own.
And I'm so grateful I have both. I'm so grateful I have both. Like,
yeah.
You know, I am itching to perform again. I did do my a live show maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was filmed, so there was, the cameramen, and absolutely loved it. And now I'm like, okay, I'm ready for an online show. And thank goodness I can say, cool, if nobody's going to join me, I'm doing this thing alone, as you say, and I'm happy to be on stage by myself and carry the whole bloody thing, which is also a certain type of like work ethic and a certain type of determination that we as stand-ups have, that's different.
Yeah,
it takes a lot. Has there been a moment, or maybe you can tell me some highlights in your stand-up career that make you feel like you choose stand-up over improv?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, in Wake Me Up Before You Go, that song by George Michael. He's got this part of the song where he goes, I want to hit that high,
No,
Yeah, I want to hit that high.
I want to hit that high.
Yes. So in stand-up, because you've got your gags and you've got your flow and you know what works and what really works, you can always take the audience on a journey, and you can really hit that high, and you have an element of control. And when I walk off the stage after doing a set, I've got that feeling. Either we all have it actually as comedians. You either really won or I really didn't. And if you really didn't, you might have still got away with it. It'd been okay. But if you really rocked it, there's that feeling, and you hit that high. And with improv, I after doing it for many years, I found that you weren't really sure if you hit that high, and it was harder to hit that high. But there was a few times in improv when we did, and it was lekker. But stand up, I know how to kind of how to do that. But the thing I'm enjoying most about stand-up was firstly, I've got kids and all of that stuff, so there's always mega responsibilities. And because entertainment was too much topsy-turvy career, I always had a day job career, and what that did for me, it was a great thing. It set me free in my performance. So it's almost like I didn't care about my brand too much. I could just be crazy. I actually had a conversation with Trevor Noah about this before he went super huge. He was busy becoming super huge, and he called me the crazy white guy. And we discussed that. We were doing gigs at what's that place in Sandton, Village Walk, the Blues Room. I did a few gigs there when he was hosting, and I said to him, it's hard for you because you're starting to become really well known and famous. He's just about to get his talk show on Mnet, and I said, and the people are here for you, and there's a certain expectation that you have to fulfill, and you've got to play to your crowd almost. Whereas me, I'm unknown. I can be crazy. And he said, you're so right, and you're so lucky almost, because you can still just be a little crazy. And because I've never built the brand too much, haven't become too famous, this kind of unknown crazy guy is something I'm really enjoying. And and before you know it, I've been doing it for 20 years, stand up, and that's really cool. But there was a random night, a gig we did at Zoo Lake Bowling Club with Etienne Chardler was doing it, and Nina was hosting. And before we knew it, there was a few cancellations. They asked me to headline, and it was a tough crowd. It wasn't really going that well, and I was a bit nervous. And there was this tiny tomato box stage, and I stepped on there, and something in me just wanted to have a cathartic release. I think it had been a stressful couple of weeks, and I just let go and just went a little mad. I did my same material, but I slowed it down, and I went a little crazy. And the compliments I got afterwards, I got a standing ovation at the Zoo Lake Bowling Club, and I had a few guys come up to me afterwards, and there was two guys. They were both black guys, and the reason I said it is because they came to me and said, you remind me of Eddie Izzard. And I didn't know black people watched much Eddie Izzard, but they said, you got this crazy Eddie Izzard thing. And the guy said, do me a favor, don't ever dumb it down for the crowd. Be yourself and be this crazy thing. And I got a standing ovation, and that was special. It was a really special evening, and it's for evenings like that that I love stand up, and I love the game. I just love the game. Just being rock up and do your 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and just rock it and just give of yourself.
Oh, it's just so rewarding when you win in stand up and you know that you have done this on your own. It is. It's just the most rewarding feeling. And the opposite as well. When you are sitting there dying, you're like, I've done this to myself, you know? So that's so true. Yeah, it's so bloody true. Been a moment. You've done a lot. You've done. I mean, as I say, you've been working as an improviser. As a stand-up comedian. You've been in the industry for 20 years now.
I was in TV as well, hey, for like 12 years behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yes. Has there been a moment in your career where you've gone, "This is it. I've hit the big time"?
Well, I don't think so. I always knew that I was always, this sounds corny, but it's true, but I've always been enjoying the journey. And when I was young in the game, we did not know the size of the pond, that whole big fish, small pond thing. And I think that there was a maturity and almost a disappointment when you realize we have somewhat of a limited pond. While we say that, and then suddenly you hear of guys who were gigging in London and in Australia, and then of course the Trevor Noah effect phenomenon. So suddenly that pond is a little bigger. But when I was really like starting out, and there was John Vlismus was like a rock star, and Barry Hilton, of course, a rock star, and then David Cow was like the first black rock star of comedy. It was really cool. And for me, it's always just been, okay, that's the bar. I'm just going to keep doing my thing. So I've always known I've got a long way to go, part of a journey, not doing it full time like a lot of my peers, but on the journey. And there's been just nights when I've been alongside some of these guys on a lineup, and I've been able to hold my own on stage, following them or going before them. That's been really special. But I do think, even in stand-up, I think you need a little friend to help you if you're going to take it to the next level, if you're going to take your personal brand to the next level, and that is your little friend of either television or radio. I do think you need one of those things to catapult you. Otherwise, you're never really going to be known. That's if you want to be known, which I think we all do deep down want to be known. So yeah, I was behind the scenes in TV, never cracked a gig on TV or in radio, but always just been gigging, doing my thing. And it can sustain you because comedians book other comedians, and comedians know which comedians do the job. But in terms of the fame monkey, haven't cracked it yet. Maybe one day. I'm in a new phase of life, chapter 2, round 2. So yeah. So in conclusion, it's the journey. Still on the journey.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, cool.
I feel like that's important. A lot, just because a lot of people who, I get it honestly all the time when people ask me about Jittery and how to join Jittery and how to get involved. A lot of what I get is, how do I become famous? And
yeah.
Is that a big goal for you? Fame?
I think it's nice. The feeling is nice to be known by a lot of people, and with all that change in lifestyle and responsibility and the pros and cons. But I think for entertainers, I do think it's a deep little desire. It is, but because of the way my life's worked out, I've realized this little trick is that I've got to always love the craft, and I've got to always enjoy the craft. and it's got to get me really excited, and it does. Thank goodness, it really does. And the thought of any part of entertainment craft, I had a bit of a go at acting as well here and there, but the craft is so enjoyable, and stand up as the holy grail of entertainment is so liberating, because you don't have to do rehearsals. You don't need a script writer. You don't need a costume designer. You do, but you don't. It's all
Yeah.
you. You need a microphone and a plug. That liberation, and that people are listening, and you better have something to say. That essence, that craft is what I love. It excites me, and I live for that. And I've always kind of had this mantra, well, that hasn't really worked out for me, but I've said to people, young people, if you focus on the love of doing it and on getting better, the money and the fame will come. And yeah, look, I've made a career on the side with it, and it's been a nice career on the side. It's really produced, it's paid some bills. It really, that's great. Yeah, yeah,
That's great. You know, even a career on the side, you know, even stand up as a side hustle, it's a career. You know, you in the bars all the time testing material, you at rehearsals if you're doing improv. You know, it's actually a full-time night thing. You know, it's not like it's, you know, you showing up at a gig once every 6 months going, this is my side hustle. You know, it is a
that's right. Yep.
Totally. And what is just so interesting about what you are saying, especially because so many of us we want fame and we want to get known and we want to look what this person has and I don't have it. And, you know, there's all this competition, especially in our area. You're a funny comedian, you're not a funny comedian, you know, is enjoying the journey. Enjoying the journey, because after doing 6,000 episodes of this bloody show, nobody has ever said, I'm purely satisfied where I am. I've made it. You know, everybody wants something else, something more. There's a constant, I need to get somewhere else. And, you know, I've interviewed the David Cowles of this country. And even he has huge goals, desires, and he's, you know, in our minds, he's achieved all you can achieve in this country.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's just such a positive, beautiful way of being, to say and remind yourself, enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, and one of the glorious things about gigging and doing gigs to me is you got your little 20 minutes on stage, but the Oaks and the ladies, our comedians and comedians, having a few drinks with them before and after a gig is part of the magic, you know, and just talking about the game is just magic. It's something I really, really value, and I never take that for granted. And I'm always keen to see who's on the lineup so that we can catch up afterwards, have a drink, grab a coffee, and those are sacred moments for me. As you know, as a father of 3, and it was always very, very busy, and the day job, and very, very busy. But it was like going out and meeting mates, and it was a lucky packet of which mates you're going to meet, because it depends who was on the lineup. But so basically, networking is something you just got to do all the time, and be nice to everyone. That's just what I've always tried to do, because it's comedians who book other comedians, and be Facebook friends with all comedians, and punt their gigs, and hopefully they'll punt your gigs, and if you're able to, there's something I wish I'd done more, but it was very difficult. But go to a comedy night when you're not on, and just show your face and laugh at the guys, and mentor someone, and just have a beer with the Oaks afterwards. It's that community. It's a very sacred community, because not only are we competitors, but there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood as well. We need each other, even though we compete with each other, and that's that's fantastic. It's a lovely game.
Totally. But it's also like a part of me is like, the competition is, and it's so strong in our industry, but I feel like the competition is actually, if I think about it, so unnecessary in some ways because we're so different. I cannot think of, honestly, one comedian who is, in this country at least, who is even remotely like me or even remotely like you.
Yeah,
You know, we're
that's
just
the
so
thing.
different and so unique, and our styles are so unique, you know, and
Yeah.
are we competing for the right reasons? You know, if your style of comedy doesn't really lend well to corporates, let's say, why are you going for the corporates?
Mm, mm.
You know,
Yeah,
and you have to be a corporate comedian to be a comedian in this country. You know?
it's such an interesting question, and it that's why it all depends. I take my hat off to people who've decided I've got a season in life when I'm going to jump in and do this thing full time, and hustle about and promote your brand and and do what you can and be what you can. And if you need some cash flow, then you've got to often go for the gigs with the money and say yes to everything. And that is, yeah, that is sometimes important. And why I'll say it again, I felt quite liberated with the schlep of having a day job to not be, the comedy didn't have to be that for me. I could pick and choose. Although it was nice financial lucky packet every month, I could pick and choose. But you've just got to, whatever you've decided to do with it, if you're going to jump in with both feet, if you're able to, if you've got some sort of cushion or you've got the means, then then you can go for it. You can build your brand, and if you've got to do a gig just for the money, then so be it. Give it your best shot, and never forget with this journey story. We're learning all of the time, and we're getting experience, and this is great. That's why one must never give up, no matter what happens to you in life, because what you are is a sum total of your experiences, and that's an extraordinary thing. You know, I've been doing comedy like 20, 21 years now, and I can go to a weird gig where we're not sure about the crowd, if they're going to like it, or it's a bit touch and go and the sound isn't very good. And there might be some guys less experienced than me. I get up there and there's just this relaxedness and this, I've been here before because I have done many, many such weird gigs. And you end up having a good show, and the young oaks look up to you and go, wow, how did you do that? It's like, because I've done this before.
Yeah, not your
It's the
first
experience. Yeah.
totally.
And on that thing about competition, it's true what you're saying. It can become a little toxic. Generally, it's a little healthy. But if there was 1,000 comedians in this country and they all found their shtick and their niche and their funny, their own internal, authentic funny, that'd all be different. There'd be 1,000 different styles of comedy, and that's the magic of what comedy can produce. And in the beginning, I was trying to be like certain oaks, whereas I found such liberation in finding myself funny. And it's this wonderful Socratic journey of self-discovery that you go on, and it's liberating and it's lekker.
Totally. And how long would you say it took you to find that voice?
I started, it's quite a strange thing, but I started using, I was under a bit of pressure in the early days of, just because of life and the choices I'd made, that I'd used the comedy as a bit of a cathartic therapy, and went on stage, just kind of let rip. And I had this thing, if I walk off and I'm not, and I can't wipe sweat off my forehead, then I haven't really given it all. I need to act, even if it's a 7-10 minute set, need to actually build up a bit of a sweat. And in that by the third year, I knew there was something cool about it. And in fact, Joe Parker's comedians, we got together a little Christmas party, and they voted me most improved comedian. And a lot of them sat me down and said, you got to be doing it, you just got to tweak it more. But I knew there was something there after about 3 years. And then after a few other life events and journeys, I took actually a 2-year break from comedy when I had the little babies. But coming back to it, there was this freshness and this, boy, I missed this, and there was this new kind of energy. But by about 8 or 9 years doing it, I had my thing, and it was significantly different from other people's things. Still influence, but I had my thing. 8 or 9 years was lekker. Now I just love it. I just love it. And I mean, even now, there will always be influence. Like, I can't help but be influenced by Mark Banks. He's my local kind of spirit animal.
Why have I not had Mark on the show as well? Oh, I just love
he's
that
great.
man.
He is mad.
He's mad and he's silly and he's so hilarious. But what is so genius about that man is a lot of us, when we get off stage, we switch off and we're not that sort of person. You know, we like a heightened persona on stage. Mark, who you see on stage, he is that off stage. He's also he's so brilliant. He's so brilliant.
I mean, it's hysterical, yeah. And I at Urban Brew Studios where I worked, we had a lot of talk shows, and Mark was often asked to be a guest. And I saw a lot of, until a talk show host got used to him, they kind of struggled. And I went and whispered into a few of their ears a few times when they were going to have Mark on. It's like, don't try and control Mark. When he steps on, even if it's a talk show, it's just, if you're trying to get this horse into the stable, it's not going to work. Just let him and bounce off him. You'd be fine because you got the improv skill. And eventually, even someone like on Free Talk, Nolene, she got quite used to Mark's madness, and she knew when Mark was there, it was going to be a bit of a wild ride, and it was great. But I saw some talk shows trying to he wouldn't even allow them get through their questions. He'd talk about the coffee table and the weird arrangement at the SABC. It was just madness. It was fabulous. And they were just laughing then. And then it's like, we've got to do an ad break. Thanks for having. And he keeps asking, when is this going out? When is this going out? Is this a No, it's live now. What? That's his running gas. Fabulous.
He's so
fantastic.
You know, he is someone, I'm so glad you brought him up, because as I say, he's also a huge inspiration of mine. And he really is somebody who has managed to merge the improv world and the stand-up world so beautifully.
Sure.
Beautiful.
I think, the thing about improv is that it challenged my stand-up, and that's, if you don't have that improv discipline, you're going to get almost a little lazy in your stand-up. And guys like, obviously, Dave Levinson and John, because of all his hosting at the Underground, all those splendid years, and of course Mark, they can literally be on stage and they will play to the crowd. They won't just default into their material. They'll pick up something someone said or and play to the audience. And we must never forget, as entertainers, the audience loves that inclusion. They absolutely love, and a comedy audience loves the inclusion. And that was one of the big lessons I had to learn, was not to just default into my autopilot material, but to relax, be in the moment, even for stand-up, and to play to the crowd. See if you can pick something up. And but Mark, oh boy, can he do that like a genius. And of course, John Vlismus, Joe Parker, Al Prodgers, the really good comedy night hosts. The more you host, well, there's another skill, emceeing a comedy night. The pros and cons. I mean, one of the cons is that you don't get the luxury of having a 20-minute set and go and have a beer. You're on duty the whole night. That's one of the cons. But the pro is you get to actually test some material and play with the audience, and you've set your rapport. So you can go out there again, they know you, and you can try stuff, and it's fun. But it develops your improv skill as well, hosting. It's a scary skill, and I do think in the future I'd like to do it a bit more. But it's another good one.
So speaking about the future and your future, what is next for Ryan Whittal in terms of comedy, stand-up comedy, improv, and performance?
Yeah. Well, I moved city to a rather splendid city. in November, and before lockdown, I actually was starting to get into the Cape Town comedy scene, and it was great. And in March, actually, lockdown happened mid-March. In March, I had a gig at the Beer House in Long Street in Cape Town, a gig at the Beer House in Tiger Valley, and I had a gig at Doodles here in Bloberg, and was starting to meet the Oaks and network, and then boom, lockdown. But you can bet your bottom dollar when lockdown's over, whatever happens, I'll be gigging, I'll be rocking open mic nights, I'll be saying how's it to all the comedians, and I'll just be jumping on the circuit and playing the game. And if there's a improv troupe doing their thing and I've got some time, I'll join them. And I'm just going to continue having lots and lots of fun with stand-up and improv. And then time willing, we'll see about the future. But before leaving Joburg, as you know, I even messed around with a bit of Amdram, and I did some performances. I did a Edgar Allan Poe monologue, and it's also just that, sharpen your tool, that seventh habit of the highly effective blah, blah, blah. Just keep sharpening your tool. And even there's no surprise why some of the best dramatic performances in Hollywood are by guys who started in stand-up or ladies who've had a crack at stand-up. We're versatile, and I think we do sometimes want to foray into a dramatic role. With improv, we've had a bit of fun with it. It always defaults to comedy, but stay in the drama, stay in the character drama, the loss, the sad, and to experience the sad face and the happy face is. So I'm gonna get stuck in as soon as this madness is left. I'm gonna get stuck in, and meet the Oaks. I've already met some nice Oaks. Cole Ping, he runs Beer House, and I think it was Sima. He runs a Zimbabwean dude. He's very funny. He just sits there and he talks to the audience. It's quite crazy. He was running Doodles. So Cape Town, gonna make it my home. Dig my heels in. Yeah, so far so good. And the day job's going very nicely. So that's great. That's key, and it's going well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that is so bloody cool. We are going to be watching you. We're going to be following you. Obviously, you're in Jittery, so you're going to be playing with us. We're going to do some online shows, which I'm so excited about. Ryan, you are a comedy legend. Thank you for being so hilarious. Thank you for being such a support to me in Jittery Citizens, and for being such a strong, awesome player. I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate you on the big time. You're the best.
Thank you, Claude. That's really lovely words, and same to you. I appreciate you, and you're awesome, and keep doing that dirty matric boy who tunes Oaks Mothers. It's one of my favorites.
You're the best, Ryan.
Thanks, Claude. Thank you. Thank you. Lots of love. Ciao. Hey. Bye.
Guys, that was Ryan Whittal. So funny. He is one of our actors in Jittery Citizens. If you are not following him on all socials, do that immediately. He is just so hilar. And if you are in Cape Town and after this global pandemic, you get to see him live, what an absolute treat. Guys, until tomorrow night when we have another episode on the big time, I am going to ask you to please hit that follow button. If you're on Facebook, hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, TikTok, follow me, and please keep those suggestions coming of who you would like me to interview, and I will do my damnedest to make sure I interview them. This has been another episode of The Big Time. You guys are amazing. Until tomorrow night, bye guys!